Welcome back to another episode of The Three Jumping Beans. One of us is a hybrid, can you guess who? Starring
Olga Gonzalez.
Mauricio Ventura.
also Brandon Salazar. We are here to discuss a novel titled Ethan Frome, written by Edith Wharton. The novel itself is about a poor man who is married to this girl named Zena. Zena is also his cousin, and his wife, cousin, came into town and he falls for her. So let's get into it. A brief backstory about Edith Wharton is she was the first female to win a Pulitzer Prize for one of her first novels titled The Age of Innocence, written in the late 1920s. Edith Wharton had 6 different titles: American novelist, short story writer, playwright, designer, reporter, and a poet. Born 1862, and she died in 1937. But let's talk about this novel. This novel is set in Starkfield, Massachusetts, in the early 1900s. Ethan, Maddie, and Zena, they are the main characters that you will read most about in this novel. There is an ongoing conflict between the three of them. Me personally, I like this story or this novel because it shows a lot of realism, and that's what I feel like more people need to read on, because not only does it deal with regular scenarios in life, but it relates to everybody around the world, because this man had fell for his now wife Zena, who was taking care of his wife, taking care of his mother, which is why he married her. And when Maddie came into town, he fell for her, which is also a relative down the line, which is a little bit. Okay. But besides that, I like this novel. It stood the test of time. This novel has stood the test of time. The ongoing conflict in this novel involves Zena and Ethan at the beginning. Zena is constantly sickly. She has hardly any motivation. She mainly just stays around the house. They wanted a house, like a housemaid type of deal, but they couldn't afford one, so they had one of Zena's cousins come into town to help out around the house for chores. One of the main conflicts is that during that time, Ethan had conducted feelings for Maddie. And I feel like Zena could pick up on that, don't you think? Because, like, there's no way that you're just living in a house with 2 people that presume to like each other. This novel has a really good example of symbolism. One example is the pickle dish. Zena's pickle dish that Ethan and Zena got on their wedding date from her aunt, I believe. Yeah, it was from her aunt. And during that, the entire time they've been married, it's been sitting in one spot, but then as soon as Maddie comes in, she finds a way to break it because she wants to set the table to make it nice and everything. Yes, I understand that, but that's something that you just don't really mess with, I feel like, because if you have something put away, I feel like you just don't, like, go up there and just start grabbing stuff and potentially breaking it, you know?
Yeah.
But, what are your thoughts on this novel?
My initial thoughts about the novel is that I thought the novel was going to be really boring because of the prologue. But after getting more into the novel, I found it very interesting. And reading chapter after chapter, I wanted to know more about what would happen to Ethan and Maddie and Zena, and what would happen to them in the future.
I feel that. Yeah, because during the prologue, it was a wee bit, you know,
very boring and it was very long.
But whenever we finally got into the story, stuff started picking up. It wasn't all too bad, I don't think. I personally enjoyed it.
It is a very deep novel too.
Very. I personally suggested, I give this out of 187%. Did you rate it?
I give it a 79%. I feel like because of the prologue, it lost a couple more percentage in it.
I get that. I don't know, the prologue kind of bummed the score a little bit, but I got hooked on the realism of it. What about you?
Hola, muy buenos días. Mi nombre es Mauricio Ventura. Lo que me parece interesante sobre la novela es que Eitan y Sena están casados y Eitan está engañando a Sena con Matthew. Y Sena está enfermo. Y también me gustó que la historia sea realista la mayoría de las veces. Mientras leía la novela, Eitan no le importaba a Sena. A Eitan no le importaba porque a Eitan le importaba más a Matthew, porque se preocupaba más a Matthew que a Sena, porque él quería estar con Matthew. El porcentaje que propuse para la novela es de 80%. Es porque la novela está interesante también. A veces es real lo que cuentan y eso me pareció interesante.
Alright. Let's touch upon the plot, the theme, and the figurative language. Alrighty. So,
for the plot, I believe that Ethan was trapped in a loveless marriage, and his forbidden lover was Maddie because he would end up catching a lot of feelings for Maddie, and he ended up losing feelings for his wife. He was trapped in Starkfield, Massachusetts for his whole life, and
he would rather be dead with her in a family graveyard than to be buried alone. Or to be buried with Xena. One of those.
something like that.
Yeah. Which I think is crazy. That's insane. Hey, love is love, you know what I'm saying? Even if it's with your cousin. The theme, we discussed it, we talked about the theme, and we believe it's somewhere set on failure because just all around they failed to be together, even in the end. We've discussed it, we come to a conclusion about failure because even in the end, they failed to be together, Ethan and Maddie. They got in a car crash, I believe. No, a sled. They wrecked the sled, and it was all Maddie's idea.
And during while they were going down with the sled, it was said that Ethan could see Xena's face.
It's forbidden love, man. That's all I gotta say. It's crazy. Figurative language. We discussed that, and one of the similes that kind of like held on because we discussed it in class. It was whenever Ethan and Maddie were coming back from the town, right?
Yeah.
Whenever they're walking back, Ethan was stepping up to the house whenever he noticed a dead cucumber. Was it a dead cucumber vine?
I believe it was a dead
Yeah, a dead cucumber vine dangling from the porch. And in that, it was like a symbol of death.
Yeah, a symbol that someone in the house had passed away or is about to die.
Little did he know he was talking about himself. This novel has a lot of realism, and in a sense, you kind of feel bad because of the situation that everyone is put in. It's something that is very difficult to go through. I feel like many people can't go through with their feelings and emotions because they get confused. And that's why I feel like Ethan kind of got off a track for what his main goal was.
I also feel like he was trapped because in that time, being divorced or getting a divorce would be like a bad thing. It would be considered a bad thing, and
it was looked down upon.
He was like trapped in that relationship, even though he didn't want to be with Zena.
Yeah, because marriage was frowned down upon, and his feelings with Maddie just kept on making him think, "Oh, let's run away. Let's go away." Like, I feel like whenever he was with Maddie in town, away from Xena, I feel like that's when he was most happiest. This novel, I recommend. I don't know if any of these guys do, but I personally do. I feel like it's something that many people around the world can relate to.
I mean, I also believe that it is a relatable story, and I do recommend people to read it, but like at a certain time age too.
Yeah, because I feel like you actually have to be able to comprehend this stuff too.
Like you have to relate to it to actually feel what the novel is mentioning.
Yeah. Well, if that's all, I guess that's all for today. And we are the Three Jumping Beans. I may not look it, but hey, we're the Three Jumping Beans. Thank you for tuning in. Let's jump back where we came from, guys.